Acts chapter 25 is going to tell more of the story of Paul on his way to Rome to stand trial. In the last chapter, we met Felix. In this chapter, we're going to meet Felix's successor, Festus. It says 3 days after Festus arrived in Caesarea to take over his new responsibilities, he left for Jerusalem, where the leading priests and other Jewish leaders met with him and made their accusations against Paul. They asked Festus as a favor to transfer Paul to Jerusalem because they wanted to ambush and to kill him. So anyway, it says when Paul arrived, the Jewish leaders from Jerusalem gathered around and made many serious accusations that they couldn't prove. Paul denies the charges. He says, I'm not guilty of any crime against the Jewish laws or the temple or the Roman government. And so as you continue to read this, you'll see that Festus tries to get him to move to Jerusalem, kind of a political move. And Paul appeals to Caesar, which is important. He says, no way, I'm Roman. And he appeals to Caesar. And you'll see what happens here at the end of the chapter. But before we see that, it says in verse 13, a few days later, King Agrippa, another Roman official, arrives with his sister to pay their respects to Festus. He hears about it, and he wants to talk to Paul about this. Now, in verse 18, it's interesting because this is how Festus explains this to King Agrippa. He says, the accusations made against him weren't any of the crimes I expected. Instead, it was something about their religion. Remember, because Festus, Agrippa, they're not Jewish. It was something about their religion and a dead man named Jesus, who Paul insists is alive. What an interesting restatement of the gospel from the vantage point of a non-believer. So as you scroll down to verse 22, Agrippa said, I'd like to hear the man for myself. Festus said, you will tomorrow. Now, as we get ready for tomorrow's reading, it says in verse 25, and this here is Festus speaking. He said, in my opinion, Paul has done nothing deserving of death. However, since he appealed his case to the emperor, I have decided to send him to Rome. And so this is how the book of Acts is going to finish up, with Paul on his way to Rome. And this is an important chapter in terms of how he ends up going there. He could have gone back to Jerusalem. If he would have, he probably would have been ambushed. But Paul knows that it's God's purpose to send him on to Rome. And so on to Rome he will go. But before he does that, he's going to explain to Agrippa, basically, what he believes. He's going to have another opportunity to share the gospel with a Roman official. And so we will see that tomorrow. But for now, you're ready to read chapter 25. See you tomorrow for chapter 26.